My father suffered a heart attack relapse and died in prison. At the funeral, overwhelmed with grief, my wife Victoria Ashworth handled everything for me. That night, when I came to, I overheard her conversation with my father-in-law. Victoria, back then, to provoke Julian Harrison into coming back to you, you agreed to the marriage alliance with the Clark family. Later, after marrying Sincere Clark, you concealed project risks, embezzled Clark family funds to fill the holes on Julian's side, causing the Clark conglomerate to go bankrupt, and Sincere's father to be thrown in prison. I don't even dare to investigate if his father's death this time has anything to do with you. Victoria, if Sincere finds out about these things, you're finished. Was it worth it? For that scumbag Julian? My wife, Victoria Ashworth, was resolute. It was worth it. I'd do anything for him. Dad, you took a share when the Clark conglomerate went bankrupt back then, so talking to me like this now is meaningless. As for Sincere, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to him. Only then did I understand. What I thought was familial bliss was actually my wife's knife, driving my family to ruin. If that's the case, everything they gained by trampling on the bones of my Clark family, I will make them repay it 1,000, 10,000 times over Chapter 1. I kept my eyes tightly shut, my fists clenched beneath the covers, my nails dug into my palms, the pain sharpening my senses. I heard Victoria's sigh, her voice filled with regret and sorrow. Even though Julian doesn't love me, I just hope he's happy. That's enough. Hearing this, Walter Ashworth grew agitated and anxious. That scumbag Julian Harrison doesn't care about you at all. He's just using you for that piece of trash. You destroyed Sincere's family. Victoria Ashworth, snap out of it. The truth will always come out. One lie needs countless others to cover it up. You've been married to Sincere for so many years. He and his father treated you so well. If one day Sincere finds out that you were the one who ruined his family, what will you do? Victoria fell silent for a moment, avoiding a direct answer. Instead, she retorted, Dad, why play the armchair quarterback now, lecturing me from your moral high ground? So conscientious now? You weren't like this when you helped me pull it all off back then. Walter Ashworth was furious but kept his voice down. Back then you only said that openly subsidizing your maiden family looked bad, and it was better to take shelter under the Clark family's tree. You said it was your way of repaying us for raising you. But what did you do afterward? If I had known the truth about that incident would bankrupt the Clark conglomerate and land Chairman Clark in prison, I would never have helped you, no matter what. And then you actually used the Clark family's lifeblood to nourish that bastard Harrison. I could imagine Walter Ashworth grinding his teeth as he said that last sentence. Victoria let out a low chuckle. Dad, all this talk of righteousness, morality, and responsibility, aren't you just upset that you didn't get the biggest slice of the Clark pie back then? Why pretend to be the good guy now? She paused for a moment. I heard footsteps approaching me, and the next second, a warmth enveloped my hand. She walked over, took my hand, and spoke softly. Dad, weren't you asking me what I would do? A life for a life, it's only natural justice. I've already written my will. If anything happens to me, Sincere will inherit everything I own. Walter Ashworth, give up that idea. The room fell into a tense silence, filled only with Walter Ashworth's enraged embarrassment after being exposed. He left. Victoria held my hand, murmuring in my ear, Hubby, I've arranged everything for your dad's funeral. It will be very dignified. Hubby, you need to recover quickly. I want you to come with me to my prenatal checkups. Soon after, Victoria's phone rang. It was the custom ringtone for Julian Harrison. I didn't need to see her face to know how delighted she was. The footsteps faded away. I opened my eyes, staring bloodshot at the ceiling. So my father hadn't committed financial crimes back then, nor had he profited from his employees' suffering. It was Victoria and her father, conspiring together, working from the inside and out, to push my Clark family into the abyss. Otherwise, my father wouldn't have been sentenced to prison, let alone die from a sudden heart attack behind bars, and I wouldn't have lost the last relative I had in this world. The Clark conglomerate wouldn't have shattered, becoming an industry disgrace. Even the marriage I cherished, the happy life I had prided myself on for years, was nothing but a facade Victoria created to pave the way for Julian Harrison. Her ultimate goal was to use the flesh and blood of my Clark family to nourish Julian Harrison. Why should my family's ruin serve as the backdrop for Victoria and Julian's twisted game of cat and mouse? Why should the bankruptcy of the Clark conglomerate and the unemployment of tens of thousands serve as trimming for the love affair of that despicable pair? Rage burned within me. Everything that happened after the incident flashed before my eyes. The hunched backs of my father and the executives as they were arrested. The tearful petitions submitted collectively by loyal long-time employees. The veteran board members begging for help everywhere, only to be turned away at the door. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. We did everything we could, yet we couldn't change a thing. The Clark conglomerate went bankrupt. Decades of hard work washed away. Tens of thousands of employees lost their jobs overnight. Shareholders were saddled with massive debts. The authorities froze all company accounts, seized the cash, confiscated my family's house, and imposed astronomical fines. We also had to pay breach of contract penalties to clients and partners, along with employee salaries. To cover this, we sold the factories, sold the technology. Even the company building was used to pay off debts. It still wasn't enough. I was burdened with hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. After the upheaval, my wife, Victoria Ashworth, stood by me, unwavering, and even let me work at her family's company. I was deeply moved by this. At that time, I swore that having such a wife was my greatest fortune. Thinking back now, it's laughably absurd all the calamities that befell me. Sincere Clark and my Clark family were her doing, and I was expressing gratitude to my enemy sleepless. I sat staring out the window all night. Didn't Victoria say she wrote a will? That if anything happened to her, I would inherit all her assets. Ha, as if that's enough, she grew strong by feeding on the blood of my Clark family, yet she considers all this her property. All of it originally belonged to my Clark family. Chapter 2. The next morning, Victoria pushed the door open, carrying a glass of warm water. "Hubby, you're awake." Seeing Victoria's gentle and relaxed demeanor, I found it hard to reconcile her with the person who had destroyed my family. But what's the saying? A gentle knife cuts deepest. In my heart, I held no illusions about my enemy. But for now, I had to maintain appearances. To be capable of such acts revealed Victoria's viper heart. Until I avenged my family, I needed to keep up the facade. Last night, fury had clouded my mind. Countless times the thought flashed, do it now, take Victoria in the next room down with me. Reason ultimately prevailed. Victoria alone wasn't enough. Anyone involved in this, not a single one could escape the suffering my Clark family endured. The perpetrators, the beneficiaries, they all had to experience it tenfold, 100-fold. Before things could be even yesterday, she said something right. A life for a life. It's only natural justice. Victoria, acting as usual, was tender and attentive, asking about my condition. She breathed a sigh of relief. She urged me to rest well, offering me a few more days off. I refused. My father's death was suspicious and sudden. At that time, I was working hard to secure a massive deal. The partner was a company that had once been a competitor of the Clark conglomerate. The person in charge of the project was named Reese Dawson. He was also an industry insider. We had known each other since youth due to family businesses. Unfortunately, our relationship was quite hostile. After my family fell from grace, Reese Dawson never missed an opportunity to cause trouble for me, taunting me with words whenever he saw me. Never thought the great young Master Clark would one day swallow his pride for a deal. Honestly sincere, I almost admire your resilience. You truly are capable. Since we were kids, my dad always used you as the example of the other kid to lecture me. With the huge scandal surrounding the Clark conglomerate, and your father, Edmund Clark, doing something like that, do you think you might have inherited it? But business is business. Over the years, your outstanding abilities have managed to change the industry's perception of you. Edmund Clark's own son. I genuinely admire you for that. This huge deal was something I had pursued for over half a year. During that time, I practically worked like a dog, even groveled like one. I cast aside my pride, my dignity, just begging Reese Dawson to give me this deal. Knowing Reese's character after years of animosity, I understood his ways. Toying with me was part of it, but the other part was that this mega deal was incredibly important for both of us, and we were the most suitable partners. Achieving the optimal solution while simultaneously getting to torment me, it was a win-win for him. So he dragged out the cooperation period within the scope of his authority, annoying me as much as possible to satisfy his sadistic streak. Now the project was wrapping up. If I didn't go, it was highly likely Victoria would go behind my back and hand this deal over to Julian Harrison after all. She had hinted at this multiple times, and Reese Dawson would definitely agree he would absolutely not pass up this chance to needle me. Chapter 3. After Victoria left, I went to the study. I opened the safe hidden in the secret compartment. I hadn't lacked curiosity about it before, but I believed that even between husband and wife, privacy should be respected. Without a second thought, I entered Julian Harrison's birthday as the password. Sure enough, it opened. The contents were simpler than I expected. Some jewelry and several diaries. Wearing gloves, I examined the jewelry. From the style, I recognized them: an engagement ring, a wedding ring, and the traditional 3 gold pieces given at weddings. These were not the ones I gave Victoria, because both the engagement ring and the wedding band were a matching pair. The women's and men's rings lay quietly together. I picked them up for closer inspection. They were all engraved. GQX loves CYH. Gu Ching Shui loves Chu Yunhei. Victoria Ashworth loves Julian Harrison. It seemed these were prepared for Victoria's wedding to Julian, but unexpectedly they were never used. There were even wedding invitations and photos. And one wedding photo was particularly jarring. The woman in it was indeed Victoria, but the man beside her was clearly me, but the man's head had been photoshopped too. Julian Harrison's. My hand holding the photo couldn't stop trembling, a mixture of fury and humiliation churning in my chest. I knew Julian Harrison was Victoria's first love. I could also sense that after Julian returned to the country, Victoria's attitude towards him sometimes crossed the line. I'd even talked to her about it, only to receive her apology. She said it was her fault for making me jealous. After that, under my nose, I never saw those boundary-crossing actions again. But I still heard the office gossip. Because of my belief in marital fidelity and Victoria's unwavering support during my family's downfall, I stopped believing the gossip. I even reprimanded colleagues for it. But now, faced with this level of betrayal, I couldn't remain indifferent. The hatred in my heart screamed relentlessly. I took a deep breath, suppressing it. Then I started leafing through the diaries. They were filled entirely with Victoria's infatuation with Julian Harrison. She had secretly loved him since she was 14, the pages detailing how her heart fluttered, how a passionate crush turned into a long, drawn-out devotion. She wrote that the boy was like a clear breeze and bright moon, unattainable in her youth. Flipping further, many receipts were tucked between the pages. On the last page, I finally found something useful. It was Victoria's confession regarding me. It didn't explicitly state whether the fatal blows that brought down the Clark conglomerate were her doing, nor did it clearly detail Victoria's criminal methods. It simply said, "I did something terrible to Sincere Clark and his father. I set a trap for the Clark conglomerate. The outcome was as I planned. The Clark conglomerate disappeared, and we inherited their cake. I gave the biggest piece of the cake to Julian. This would solve his family's urgent problems. I left a small piece for Dad. After all, he did contribute quite a bit. If I didn't give him anything, he'd start lecturing me about father-daughter bonds again. I'm tired of it. If he cared so much about family ties, why did he cheat on Mom? I don't regret it. If I had to do it again, I would still choose the same path. I hope my Julian can be happy from now on." Tucked at the end was a photo of her and Julian Harrison. It looked like it was taken when they were dating. My feelings were a tangled mess. I couldn't even think of curses vicious enough for these murderers. I took out my phone, forcing myself to remain calm, and documented all this evidence. Even if this data wasn't conclusive, it could contribute, however modestly, to overturning the verdict against the Clark conglomerate later and clearing my father's name. After securing the evidence, I used my computer to hack into the home surveillance system, erasing the record of my visit to the study, and then returned to the bedroom. With the resources I currently possessed, taking down Victoria and the Ashworth family behind her seemed unlikely, let alone overturning the original case afterward. After some thought, an idea began to form in my mind. Chapter 4. I spent some time vetting potential allies. Kevin Miller. He used to be a junior manager under Julian Harrison. Due to differing philosophies, he refused to follow Julian's orders. Consequently, Julian made things difficult for him, not only making him a scapegoat and firing him, but also using the company's influence to blacklist him within the industry. I tried to change the company's punishment for him, but it only changed from a public industry blacklist to an internal company blacklist. It didn't really help his situation. Later, Kevin Miller lived in depressed obscurity. I even helped him out financially sometimes. Once, while drunk, he swore to me that as long as he was alive, he would get revenge on Julian Harrison and vent his anger. The private investigator sent back news Kevin Miller had indeed been investigating Julian Harrison. He even possessed evidence of Julian's affair with Victoria. I arranged to meet him, we talked, and quickly reached an agreement. The next day, I returned to work at the company. Just as I stepped out of the elevator, I heard Victoria and Julian chatting around the corner. Julian, just wait a bit longer. After Sincere finalizes the deal with Reese Dawson, you can take over responsibility. Julian Harrison snorted coldly. Reese Dawson's sadistic game has dragged on long enough. Isn't he satisfied yet? Let him be. They'll sign with us in the end anyway. Sincere is your husband, after all. Does it not bother you to watch him go through this? He has indeed suffered. I'll make it up to him later. So Victoria and Julian both knew. And now, with a few casual words, they planned to give away the fruits of my labor if this were the past. A few comforting words from Victoria, and I would have accepted it. But things were different now. They chatted about other things for a while before I stepped out from the shadows. The moment Victoria saw me, a flash of panic crossed her face, quickly replaced by her usual gentle expression. She walked over, took my hand, and asked with concern, "Hubby, why did you really come to work?" I wanted you to rest more. A cold sneer formed in my heart. This act of loving concern, should I praise her resilience or her deeply ingrained acting skills? I smiled faintly. I'm rested enough. Can't let work fall behind. With that, I turned to leave. Julian Harrison, standing nearby, had a face full of mockery, his words laced with sarcasm. Right. Mr. Clark probably needs work to numb himself right now. But do take care of your health. Dying suddenly wouldn't be good. Returning to my office, I could feel the scrutinizing gazes and hushed whispers of the employees along the way. The entire company could see Victoria's blatant favoritism towards Julian Harrison. As her husband, the employees didn't dare say anything to my face due to my position, but I heard plenty behind my back. Victoria's response to this was merely a dismissive claim that her interactions with Julian were work-related, but she took no real action to stop it. Perhaps she enjoyed the gossip, fantasizing that Julian Harrison really was her husband. That afternoon, I signed the contract with Reese Dawson, and we also confirmed the date for our joint press conference. I relayed the information to Kevin Miller. Next Monday, new convention center fully live-streamed online. Time passed quickly. Top executives and shareholders from both companies were present, along with countless media representatives. In front of a live audience of tens of thousands online, the collaboration and new product were officially announced. The press conference proceeded according to schedule, finally reaching the presentation segment. Victoria, as president, walked onto the stage, and the large screen began to scroll. Photos of her affair with Julian Harrison were displayed like a PowerPoint presentation, concluding with a video clip of them in a hot spring. Back then, after we managed to bankrupt the Clark conglomerate, it took so much effort just to get Sincere's dad imprisoned. Now can we arrange for his father to die in there? Victoria said let it go. It took so much effort just to get Edmund Clark a life sentence, but ultimately he's not getting out. Julian was dissatisfied, the conscience. The Clark family insisted on for so many years cost us so much potential profit. No, I can't swallow this. Victoria smiled faintly. All right, whatever you say. The video ended there. Kevin Miller jumped out, shouting into a megaphone at the live cameras and all the media. I am Kevin Miller. I take full responsibility for the authenticity of the information just revealed instantly. The entire convention center erupted in chaos. Chapter 5 note. Chapter numbering follows. Original structure. Chapter 2 seems to be mislabeled in the original and is integrated here, combined with Chapter 4 events leading into Chapter 5. Kevin Miller continued shouting through the megaphone. Julian Harrison is a homewrecker destroying someone else's marriage for a company about to go public to have such an executive. Aren't you all terrified? The stage was set by Kevin. It was my turn to act. Quickly, I snatched the microphone from the MC, my reprimanding voice booming through the speakers. Kevin Miller, I advise you not to spout nonsense. Who are you trying to fool with these fabricated things? Everyone knows why you were fired hearing my words, Kevin immediately retorted. And isn't it common knowledge that I took the fall for Julian Harrison back then, Sincere Clark? Mr. Clark, I know you've been through hell and back. I also know you deeply love your wife. Even if she cheated, your upbringing would make you suppress this for the bigger picture and handle it privately. I admire you for that, but we're just ordinary people. If I don't do this, our names will never be cleared. Julian Harrison had an affair with Victoria Ashworth, abused his position for personal gain, engaged in quid pro quo, took kickbacks. It's rampant, but why should he get away with everything while we working folks risk our lives for meager wages? He pushed all the blame onto me. I spent 2 years in prison. Who was there to comfort me? Leo Jenkins, my colleague, was called by Julian Harrison late at night to deliver documents for overtime work. He died in a car accident on the way. Not a cent of compensation. Why? Jane Ross, forced by him to entertain clients with drinks, ended up being assaulted by the client. Nowhere to complain. Why? Mr. Clark, open your eyes. There's something very interesting among the things I've uncovered 10 years ago, the notorious Clark conglomerate criminal case that shocked the nation. Maybe it was a miscarriage of justice? Mr. Clark, I've said my piece. You can investigate the specifics yourself. Ah. Julian Harrison, I will live to see the day you pay the price. Kevin Miller was led away by the police, still shouting curses. I feigned shock and horror, quickly grabbing the microphone and rushing towards Kevin, attempting to get him to clarify. The scene descended into chaos. Kevin Miller, speak clearly. What do you mean the Clark conglomerate case was a misjudgment? What did that last video clip mean? The police blocked me. With such a huge disturbance, they had to maintain order. While pushing against the police, demanding Kevin explain, I also yelled at the media to shut up. Traumatized, I looked around like a headless fly, my gaze instantly locking onto Victoria. I asked her, Honey, those videos and photos just now were fake, right? You didn't cheat on me, did you? How could you cheat on me? When my family was ruined, you stood by me. Ha ha ha. My face contorted with rage as I tried to rush towards Victoria to confront her. Seeing my disturbed state, the police firmly held me back. Honey, we've been married for over 10 years. You wouldn't do this to me, right? My voice carried through the microphone. After saying this, I timed it perfectly, suddenly appearing weak, my legs giving way as I collapsed to the ground. I intended to feign fainting, but doctors aren't fools. An officer nearby quickly helped me up, supporting me as I was escorted away from the scene and rushed to the hospital. Chapter 6. While I was being taken to the hospital for examination, chaos erupted within the company and in public opinion. Even though the live stream was cut off as quickly as possible, media outlets and our competitors were present. Due to the explosive nature of the content, the public relations department's maximum efforts to suppress the news couldn't contain the fervor. Ashworth Group President affair, devastated husband collapses and hospitalized. 10-year-old Clark conglomerate criminal case reversal. Julian Harrison. Victoria Ashworth murder for hire, former Ashworth Group employee speaks out. These negative headlines exploded in popularity, dominating the trending lists. Over 2/3 were related to Ashworth Group. The former Clark conglomerate was once again brought up by netizens, sparking intense discussions. Wow, this is explosive. That poor husband at the end of the video looked so broken. The affair seems confirmed at this point. This husband is truly pitiful. If the other information is also true, it's terrifying. He married a wolf in sheep's clothing who destroyed his family. So, was the Clark case really a misjudgment back then? The main reason for the bankruptcy was the broken capital chain, right? Person above is right, but this is interesting. We know in hindsight that project was a disaster, but not enough to kill off the Clark conglomerate on its own. But too many things happened simultaneously. It's hard not to connect them. Was the Clark conglomerate scammed? More importantly, Clark Real Estate was known for quality, yet there was shoddy work leading to building collapses, plus their milk brand adding banned ingredients, tax evasion, money laundering. My God, looking back now, it really seems like a chain reaction. Shocking, how could they hit so many landmines at once? The more you think, the scarier it gets. Any one of these issues alone wouldn't have destroyed Clark. The terrifying part is everything happening at once? Seems fishy. Isn't the conversation between the scumbag and the adulteress solid proof? The speed of the internet now is much faster than 10 years ago. After millions of views, netizens raised various questions. They followed the clues, trying to uncover the truth. At this opportune moment, I used other identities to leak bits of truth, guiding the netizens' exploration. Soon, gossip bloggers joined the fray, offering opinions and their own deductions. Professional analysts also weighed in. After checking multiple sources, the sharpest knife that killed the Clark conglomerate seems to be a merger and acquisition deal. Working backward, it was a trap. Picture this. You invest in artificially farmed scallops. They run away. You add more feed, carefully tend the remaining ones, then they starve to death. In disbelief, you try again with new ones, and this time they collectively abscond. Chapter 7. This online analogy resonated deeply with me, capturing about 60% of the reality. I arranged for this information to trend, broadening its reach and accelerating its spread. Seeing it climb to the top trending spot, the entire web became engrossed in discussing the details of the Clark conglomerate criminal case from years ago. I knew it was time for me to make an appearance at the company. I heard Victoria was swamped at the office, which meant there would surely be many reporters around. I needed to fully embody the victim role. I deliberately pretended to dodge reporters only to be discovered. My face was haggard, but I maintained a polite demeanor, requesting the reporters let me pass. They wouldn't understand. They would stop at nothing to get the scoop. A barrage of cameras and microphones, along with live streaming hosts, surrounded me, making it impossible to break through. In front of the cameras, I answered their questions. Regarding what they wanted to ask, I feigned embarrassment, apologized, said I couldn't believe it. I knew someone from the company would soon intervene and escort me upstairs. To my surprise, the person who came down upon hearing the news was Victoria. Seeing her warm smile, I knew she was also there to perform for the reporters. She tried to take my arm, but I subtly evaded her grasp. She looked at me, slightly surprised. Reporters of all stripes were present, and instantly someone spoke up. "Ms. Ashworth, were you just trying to put on a show of marital bliss for us? Can you perhaps comment on the affair photos and videos and the Clark conglomerate matter? Ms. Ashworth, did you really have an affair?" Mr. Clark, are you here today to act out a devoted couple scene with Ms. Ashworth to divert public attention? Mr. Clark, all current evidence points to your wife being the culprit who destroyed your family. What are your thoughts on this? Hearing the last question, I sharply looked up, staring deadly daggers at that reporter. Angrily, I lunged forward as if to discipline the reporter. The reporter didn't back down, rattling off a list of incidents, trying to make me see the truth. I perfectly played the part of someone who had been hospitalized and remained ignorant of external events. I turned, grabbed Victoria's arm, and asked, each word deliberate, "What is really going on between you and Julian Harrison? You haven't broken it off. I know he's your first love, but you promised me. How could you do this to me?" Victoria hadn't expected me to dare say such things in front of reporters. She flinched, tears streaming down her face, looking utterly pitiful. But she didn't know that her appearance held no power over me now. My face was frosty as I said, word by word. No wonder colleagues were gossiping. "Victoria Ashworth, if you don't explain this clearly to me right now, then we're getting a divorce." Hearing me say this, Victoria froze. I had never shown such hostility towards her. Her eyes widened as if she didn't recognize me. Forgetting the reporters, her carefully constructed image of the gentle, supportive wife who stood by me in my darkest hour began to crumble. "Sincere Clark, what did you say? You dare mention divorce? How many times have I told you there's nothing between Julian and me? Why do you keep harping on this?" I laughed bitterly. "Then why is it that for so many company projects I did all the work before the deal was signed, but the post-contract liaison always became Julian Harrison's job?" Victoria blurted out, "Isn't it because you're efficient? As a leader, the capable should do more to set an example. Julian isn't suited for those things." I gave a wry smile, shook my head, and stepped back 2 paces, putting on an act of utter heartbreak. "Victoria Ashworth, I really am a fool. After all these years handing over so many projects to Julian Harrison, I've only just realized I don't understand you at all. Even a fresh graduate knows after a few months on the job that the hardest part of a deal is before the contract is signed. Being harassed, forced to drink, treated like a dog, drinking until your stomach bleeds but still having to smile and toast them again. Julian Harrison can't do those things, but I can? So you justifiably took my deals and gave them to Julian, letting him reap the rewards without effort? You say the capable should do more. What has he done? He became vice president the moment he joined the company, while I worked here for 10 years and was only appointed VP 3 months ago. After saying all this, I felt darkness closing in. Unexpectedly, the emotions got the better of me, a mix of acting and genuine outpouring. I really fainted. Chapter 8. Familiar Hospital Room. Seeing me awake, Victoria quickly came to my side. Her hair was tied in a low ponytail, a few stray strands brushing her ears. She looked deeply focused, occasionally glancing back at me. Seeing me watching her, she smiled gently. A very warm scene. Before, I would have died of happiness. But now, I only felt utter disgust. People often only learn to cherish things after they are lost. Victoria brought out the prepared congee and was about to feed it to me. "I'll drink it myself." She refused. "Let me." I turned my head away. "Contact a lawyer, let's draft a divorce agreement, and then get it finalized." Victoria's expression clearly stiffened, then she forced a smile. "Hubby, what are you saying? We're not getting divorced, then explain everything to me." Victoria argued vehemently, presenting a logically structured explanation. In such a short time, she had indeed concocted a plausible story. The photos were fabricated. The video was AI generated. Kevin Miller's accusations were malicious slander. Essentially, they had prepared fake evidence for everything to confuse the public. Simultaneously, lawyer warnings had been issued. Ashworth Group intended to handle this PR crisis with utmost speed. I humored Victoria, but her recent behavior of personally taking care of me, bustling about, was somewhat surprising. It sent a chill down my spine. Logically, she should be busy comforting Julian Harrison. Hearing me voice this thought, she smiled like a blooming flower. affectionately linking her arm with mine and burying her head in my neck. She explained, "Hubby, you really are jealous. It's not my place to comfort Julian. He went to find his ex-wife." Victoria's intimacy nauseated me, but I did gain a useful piece of information: Julian Harrison's ex-wife. I remembered the reason Julian and Victoria broke up was Julian's infidelity. His ex-wife was supposedly his true love. Unfortunately, I wasn't into gossip back then and didn't clearly understand the tangled love triangle among the three of them. All I knew was Victoria chased Julian, and Julian chased his true love. And it seemed the true love lady was also trying to avoid him. Eventually, Julian succeeded in winning her over, which led to his breakup with Victoria. I should have asked more questions back then. Chapter 9. After Victoria left, an unexpected visitor arrived at my hospital room. "My name is Eleanor Montgomery." The woman paused, then added, "Julian Harrison's ex-wife." I was slightly taken aback, but invited Eleanor Montgomery to sit. She then began speaking her mind without waiting for my input. I understood her story. It seemed I had found another ally. However, I didn't trust her immediately. She had been entangled with Julian Harrison for 30 years, from childhood friends to enemies. It mirrored the typical domineering CEO novel plot. He chases, she flees, she can't escape. The only difference was that Eleanor Montgomery never had those kinds of feelings for Julian Harrison. After being forced into marriage, Eleanor was like a bird trapped in a cage. Julian subjected her to various forms of unlawful confinement. I expressed sympathy for Ms. Montgomery's ordeal. Eleanor Montgomery smiled at me. "I've told my story. I won't disturb Mr. Clark's rest any longer. May we both achieve our goals." Her visit cleared up some of my confusion. Ashworth Group had the power to suppress public opinion, yet there seemed to be an unseen force countering it. Initially, I thought it was competitors. Now it appeared the strongest force came from Eleanor Montgomery. This made things seem much easier. Her target for revenge was Julian Harrison, mine was Victoria Ashworth. And because of the Clark conglomerate incident, everything was interconnected. As the negative publicity fermented, the company was significantly impacted. Panic spread throughout the entire organization. Competitors didn't miss the chance to set traps. Problems began cropping up with projects and funding. After my conversation with Eleanor Montgomery, we began our respective tasks. I operated in the open. She worked in the shadows. I chose an opportune moment to publicly release the surveillance recording from the night of my father's funeral, capturing the conversation between Victoria and her father after I had collapsed. "That scumbag Julian Harrison doesn't care about you at all. He's just using you for that piece of trash. You destroyed Sincere's family. Victoria Ashworth, snap out of it. The truth will always come out. One lie needs countless others to cover it up. You've been married to Sincere for so many years. He and his father treated you so well. If one day Sincere finds out that you were the one who ruined his family, what will you do?" Victoria fell silent for a moment, avoiding a direct answer. Instead, she retorted, "Dad, why play the armchair quarterback now, lecturing me from your moral high ground? So conscientious now? You weren't like this when you helped me pull it all off back then, you." Walter Ashworth was furious, but kept his voice down. "Back then, you only said that openly subsidizing your maiden family looked bad, and it was better to take shelter under the Clark family's tree. You said it was your way of repaying us for raising you. But what did you do afterward? If I had known the truth about that incident would bankrupt the Clark conglomerate and land Chairman Clark in prison, I would never have helped you, no matter what, and then you actually used the Clark family's lifeblood to nourish that bastard Harrison. Simultaneously, I released the contents of the diary found in the safe. Later, I received an anonymous package containing records gathered over the years by the children of former key Clark employees. They hoped this evidence could help overturn the original verdict and bring their wrongly imprisoned relatives home. Due to the massive public outcry, the authorities swiftly intervened, collected all evidence, unsealed the old case files overnight, and began a new investigation. When the police came to escort Victoria away, She looked at me in disbelief. She asked if I could forgive her, claiming she had truly decided to live a good life with me. She said she had fallen in love with me and was pregnant with my child. I immediately requested a paternity test from the police. Regardless of whether the child was mine, Victoria's pregnancy at this time could affect the entire case. The results came back. The child wasn't mine. While relieved, this revelation made my position even stronger. It gave me a greater advantage in the court of public opinion. 6 months later, the original Clark case was officially retried, broadcast live online. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, holding my father's portrait. Victoria, Julian Harrison, and others sat in the defendant's dock. In court, Victoria broke down sobbing, eventually confessing everything that happened back then. Julian Harrison was stunned and immediately assaulted Victoria in the courtroom, forcing a temporary halt to the proceedings. At that time, Victoria was nearly 8 months pregnant. The assault induced premature labor, and tragically, the baby could not be saved. Victoria lost the chance for a suspended sentence, often granted to pregnant offenders. After much legal wrangling, on the anniversary of my father's death, the verdict in the Clark conglomerate criminal case was successfully overturned. Numerous individuals were implicated. The scope, wide-ranging everything, finally came to a close. In my dreams, I saw my father and my mother, Helen Clark. They praised me, just like they used to. Finally, my parents waved goodbye and disappeared. Outside the window, the night sky shone brilliantly bright.